God's power is not your pleasure. Welcome to the Daily Devo. I am Vince Miller. This week we are reading 1 Samuel chapter 4. I have titled this chapter, Misusing Divine Power. Today I will be reading from verses 1 through 4 of the chapter. It states, "And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out to battle against the Philistines. They encamped at Ebenezer, and the Philistines encamped at Aphek. The Philistines drew up in line against Israel, and when the battle spread, Israel was defeated before the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men on the field of battle. And when the people came to the camp, the elders of Israel said, 'Why has the Lord defeated us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord here from Shiloh, that it may come among us and save us from the power of our enemies.' So the people sent to Shiloh and brought from there the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned on the cherubim. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God." The contention between Israel and the Philistines is going to continue throughout this book, so it might be helpful to understand the tension between these two peoples. The Philistines and the Israelites are both relatively new to this region, emerging right about the same time. The Philistines settled primarily in that coastal plain to the west of the hill country, establishing their dominance in 5 major cities: Ekron, Ashdod, Gath, Ashkelon, and the infamous Gaza, which you're hearing a lot about on the news today. Each city was governed by a Philistine lord or king. In this geographical and political context, I think it's crucial to understand so that we can see the dynamics of the conflict between the two peoples throughout the book. So we come to chapter 4, right? A battle unfolds. But since we've just begun reading 1 Samuel, we would be amiss to think that this was the first battle. It wasn't. This loss was only one of many battles that had been going on for some 200 years through the time of the book of the Judges. And for Israel, this loss in battle was one of many losses. And you can kind of see that it's the straw that broke the camel's back. You can see, though, that Israel returns to camp conflicted about this. They concluded that they were defeated by the Lord. In fact, they say that they were defeated by the Lord and not the Philistines, which is perfect theology, making their theology in the first part right and their subsequent response that you see wrong, dead wrong. The issue at hand for the Israelites, though, is why? Why has the Lord continued to allow this to happen for the last 200 years, even though they entered a land with such promise of prosperity? This is the land flowing with milk and honey that they were promised. But you need to remember the why is probably threefold. Number one, it's their disobedience as a nation. Number two, the disobedience of Eli and his 2 sons. And number 3, the promise of punishment to Eli and his house, which was prophesied by Samuel in chapter 3. But rather than exploring the answers to why and seeing the connection to their disobedience, instead they took matters into their own hands. They decided that if God was not going to use his power to give them victory, that they would use his power for themselves. In failing to see God's why, their theology makes a radical turn. They change their minds about what God is and is not capable of doing and make themselves the enemy of God. Listen to the reasoning again. Here's what they say. They say, "Let us bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord from Shiloh, that it may come among us and save us from the power of our enemies." So now, initially, they proclaim that God did it. But immediately after, they deduce that God's proximity maybe is too far. Therefore, they have to do something that, by the way, they should not have done. Remove the ark of God from Shiloh. And of course, in the coming days, you will see the result of this very, very wrong and bad decision. But let's make an application. This happens to believers on a personal level all the time. We are fine with God being sovereign and in total control of all the events of our lives until we don't understand the why. When his why evades us, we become irritated because we can only sustain so many losses until we change our minds about who God is and what he is or is not capable of doing. Then we justify ourselves, assuming we're innocent of sin, and then we take matters into our own hands because we don't like the mystery and the faith required when there is no answer to the why, the reasoning. So if you find yourself in this place today wondering why things are happening, I want you to rest assured that there is an answer. There is. God knows it, and he will reveal it all in time. However, be careful not to misuse God's power for your own pleasure, as this could lead to an uncomfortable and challenging lesson. Instead of asking why today, have faith in God's timing and power and focus on the more important question: how can I obey God today? I love you guys. I pray this has blessed you. If it has, share it with someone else, and I will see you right back here again tomorrow.